Okay, I just wanted to take a moment to explain a little bit about what's happening with your assignment 9 here and why it won't compile. And the problem really lies in this main navigation JavaScript that you have here. Now, the way I got to just see all these scripts just like this is just to click on all scripts here over in my project window, alright, and then I can just kind of isolate the scripts from, everything else that's in the scene. So if we look at the scripts here, as soon as I opened up the project, it gave me a little warning on the bottom here. This little red exclamation point that says assets main navigation.js, which stands for JavaScript. So you know right away whatever it's talking about is happening in your assets folder here with your main nav JavaScript. So we know right away that that's where the program is getting hung up. And then, it goes on to say a bunch of numbers, and that's just in error code. So, don't really worry about that. And it says unknown identifier targets remaining. So what that means is if we take a look at our main navigation script up here, it's just kind of written right here in our inspector window. We can look at it. It starts out saying if targets remaining is equal to 0, then load the FPS targets destroyed. So it's saying basically that it doesn't know what targets remaining is, okay? So basically with code like this, before we actually use any of these words like targets remaining, we have to first tell the computer what targets remaining is. For example, in this example, targets remaining would be an integer, okay? We have to tell it, hey, I'm going to have this integer in my code, and it's going to be called targets remaining. So we just kind of have to prepare the system for that. Otherwise, once it comes across that particular variable, it's not going to understand how to handle it. It's just a weird thing about code. So an example of something where we have declared variables is, for example, in our fire projectile script here. We have this stuff at the top before we actually get into our update function, okay? And what this is, the var, stands for variable, and that's basically us telling the computer or the code, hey, I'm going to have this variable, and it's going to be called speed, and it's a float, and it equals 50, So that kind of sets the computer up that when you start talking about speed later on down here in the code, and the code instantly recognizes what speed is. Speed is a float, and it's equal to 50 at this point, okay? So what's happened here is we haven't actually declared this variable. We haven't told the computer, hey, we have this thing called targets remaining. And the reason that it's not in there right now is because it looks like we've skipped ahead a little bit in the book, if you're following along with the book. Before we got into creating different scenes, we actually have a whole section about heads-up displays where we go into keeping track of how much ammo we have left and keeping track of how many targets we have left. And within that code, and that's chapter 17, by the way, where we actually write the code. There is some preparation for that in chapter 16 as well. But in chapter 17, we actually go over the code for keeping track of those things, and that within that code is where we actually declare this targets remaining variable here, as well as the ammo remaining. So there's actually a code section that's called targets remaining, in the book where we talk about and make the computer aware of that int targets remaining integer and assign it a value and everything. So unfortunately, you know, before we really talk about that int targets remaining, you know, this won't actually function. So we'll actually need to put that in first before we can really get to this part, because as you can see, it won't function one without the other. So I would just suggest to go ahead and back up a bit and make sure that you go through and code all of those target remaining scripts, okay? And that way you'll find that when you get to this point later on, it will all work for you just the way it should. So for now, nothing's going to compile until that is complete or until we get rid of the code that is not working. Alright, so what you can do at this point is to just delete this. Alright, and once you have gotten rid of the problem code, then your game will actually start building. So it will work. You know, obviously that particular part of the game will not be working since we don't have code for that anymore. But just go back and add in the code from chapter 17 and take a look at chapter 16 as well. And go ahead and put that in there, and then once you have done that, then come back to this part and things will go a lot smoother for you, okay? Let me know if you have any questions about this or any of these things, and I'll help you out with that for sure. So yeah, you can see once we've gotten rid of the bad code here, everything's working pretty normal again. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Other than that, happy coding!